Well, well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Great to have everybody in the house tonight. Great to have everybody here on YouTube for a very, very, very short time, on Twitter, on Twitch, on Trovo, and on our platform of choice, Rockfin. It's ROKFIN.com. I'm the Christian Whistleblower. So rockfin.com/the Christian Whistleblower. At Unindoctrinate on Twitter, everywhere else, the Christian Whistleblower, except of course for YouTube, because they canceled the Christian Whistleblower. But we are Resistance Radio. Now we cannot stay on YouTube tonight because we're talking about something that's really important. We're talking about something that's really true, and we're talking about something that makes a fundamental difference in your life. Ergo, we cannot talk about it, ladies and gentlemen. We cannot talk about it on YouTube because we just can't. We'll get thrown off the air. But the subject is germs, hosts, dollars, and jabs. It has been a Zionist communist plot from the very beginning. From the very beginning. And that's what we're going to be talking about. So come on over to Twitter. Come on over to Twitch. Come on over to Trovo. Come on over to Rockfin. It's where all the cool kids are hanging out. And we've got 3 hours of podcast excellence. And it's going to be very, very powerful. And I'm going to be showing you some information tonight that has never been seen anywhere else. I'm going to be disclosing information tonight that has never been disclosed anywhere else. I guarantee you. How often do you get to see new information? How often do you get to hear new information? Well, tonight you're going to find something that I found that nobody else has found. And it is so profound, so powerful. It ties all of this madness together. And you are going to be absolutely shocked. Absolutely shocked. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be powerful. It's going to be fantastic. And we're going to be doing that here in just a few seconds. First of all, I want to let you know we are brought to you by Nanosoma. And I always want to say this on YouTube because there's some of you on YouTube that have allowed yourself to be maneuvered, pressured, coerced, cajoled into taking something that you didn't want to take. And if you've done that, you've got to get Nanosoma. You've got to go to JEFFERYDAUGHERTY.com, come down under the videos, click on the Nanosoma button. You got to get it. You got to take it, and you got to do it right now. And if you're worried about getting something from people that got what you didn't get, you've got to get the Nanosoma. It really is probably one of the most important products on our world right now. Right now. It is such amazing stuff. And I really want you to be able to take advantage of it. So do it. Just do it. Liberty, if you want to find out what it is, do what I just said. And you'll know more than you need to know. All right, so let's go ahead. I'll show you just the beginning because I can't do this on YouTube. I don't think I can do this on YouTube. Let me see. Germs, hosts, dollars, and jabs. This is late night in the Heartland. I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, your host. They call me, no, I can't do it. We just blew out YouTube right there. We can't say that word. There's no way. But this thing that I can't say that starts with a V and ends with an X, this thing that I can't say, it's part of the Ziocom, which I can't say, plan from the start. Now the whole story emerges, and it emerges on Twitter. It emerges on Twitch. It emerges on Trovo. It emerges on Rockfin. But alas, it cannot emerge on YouTube because I'll get kicked off. It's just that simple. So, YouTube, we salute you. Tomorrow night, I'll be back. We'll be talking about Bible prophecy is deep state prophecy. I think I can do the whole 2 hours there. I think I can do the whole 2 hours on YouTube tomorrow. But hey, we will do what we can as long as we can until we can't do it anymore. And, well, we appreciate you. And we'll see you again real soon, YouTube. We'll see you again real soon. Bye, YouTube. It's sad, but it's the only thing we can do, ladies and gentlemen. It's the only thing we can do. All righty. And Eli, don't know how sure Eli is about this. I haven't been able to vet it. But Eli in the chat room on Rockfin says that monthly booster shots will be available from Amazon. They're training their drivers to administer them. Why doesn't that surprise me? I don't even find that to be crazy. But what I did find to be crazy is you can't get a shot from your doctor, I understand. You can't go into your regular doctor and get the shot. You got to go to, Walmart or one of these crazy drugstores like Walgreens or Rite Aid or something. It's total nuttiness. Eli is joking. That was sarcasm on his part. I'm a little bit gullible sometimes, Eli, but that's okay. But you're not that far off, because if they can teach somebody at Rite Aid to give a shot, they can teach a Amazon driver to give a shot, right? Absolutely, they can. Liberty, I'll help you out one more time. I shared with you that Nanosoma will take care of you. It's just that simple. It's just that easy. Go to JEFFERYDAUGHERTY.com. Come down under the videos. Click on the button that says Nanosoma, and all your questions will be answered. Okay, here we go. The story emerges. And I found that it's always best to look at the beginning and start at the beginning. In Liberty, the best cure is not to get the thing that causes the sicknesses, which is the vaccine. So at any rate, ladies and gentlemen, I've always found it good to start at the beginning. I've always found it very pertinent to look into the beginnings of any subject on which there's a difference of opinion. And what we're trying to do is look at places where there's difference of opinion with the hope of finding the truth of the matter, the objective truth of the matter, and preferably the whole truth of the matter. Tracy Dyer weighs in the Rockfin chat room and says, they know that the doctors don't feel good about the jab. Is that why they're not letting doctors do it? I wax a little bit more pessimistic sometimes, or maybe a little more conspiratorial. I'm thinking, they don't want the doctors to do it because they don't want the doctors to come under liability for giving those things. Tracy says she is qualified at Jello shots. Well, I'm glad to hear that, Tracy. I'm a little bit surprised. When I think of Jello shots, the first name that comes to my mind is not Tracy Dyer. The first name that comes to my mind when I think about Jello shots is not Tracy Dyer. But I got to hand it to you, Tracy. You surprised me, and good for you. Good for you. So what we're trying to do is get to the whole truth. And here's the truth. Either the germ theory is false or the host theory is false. But that misses the point, because what I've discovered is that the germ theory is actually fraudulent. And the only way to understand this is to go back to the beginning and look at all the evidence objectively. Now, I know that there's a lot of people that talk about host theory, talk about germ theory. Let me give it to you just as easily as I can. Germ theory states that we live in a dangerous world, and in the air, there's all these things called germs. In the water, there's all these things called germs. In the food you eat, there's all these things called germs. You can't breathe, you can't drink, you can't eat without worrying about these germs. And these germs, they will get into you and they will kill you. Germs, they'll kill you. That's basically germ theory. It's a world full of germs. And if the germs get in, they're going to kill you. So what are we going to do? We got to kill all the germs. We got to put a hand sanitizer. We got to put on masks. We got to wrap ourselves in saran wrap. That's what it's coming to. But host theory says that illness is almost always due to errors within the host. That's our body. Errors in diet, errors in manner of living, errors in doing things like taking vaccines. Oh, Tracy Dyer, you have hit it you've hit the nail on the head, and it's so good to see it. Do you know what germ theory is? If you really want to know what germ theory is the cootie theory. Germ theory is the cootie theory. Tracy, that's brilliant. It really bothers me that I didn't think of that, but it's brilliant. Germ theory is cootie theory. Host theory is if you keep your body clean, if you keep your body healthy, if you keep from putting things into your body that you know you shouldn't, you're going to be in pretty good shape. So, do we live in a dangerous world full of cooties that seek to kill us? Do we live in a world of killer cooties? Do we, KYAH, live in a world of killer cooties? Are there killer cooties blowing across the winds of Utah? I'll probably be there later this week. I can check for myself. Are there killer cooties in your water? Are there killer cooties in your food? Or do we get sick because we're stupid and we do stupid things? Are there cooties in masks? Asked Joan. For sure. And all we have to do, Tracy, you've done it again. Germ theory is cootie theory. Host theory is be a hostile environment for cooties. It's just that simple. It's just that simple. The reality is that germs are the result of disease, not the cause. Germs show that something's already gone wrong, and the germs are just the result of that which has gone wrong. The disease precedes the germ. The germ does not precede the disease. That's the truth, ladies and gentlemen. That's the truth. Now, Pajamas asks, are some people more susceptible? Are some people more stupid than other people? Yes. So there's your answer. Is germ theory an ancient superstition? Yes, and way more ancient than you know until tonight. Diane reports that she hasn't had a cold or flu since going keto. Neither have I. It's only been a little over a year, but neither have I. I did get stung by bees, though, and got a little sick. Objectivity, folks, is difficult. It really is. It's objectivity, it's difficult, and the reason why it's difficult is because this idea that germs, this idea that cooties cause disease, and that cooties must be controlled, cooties must be killed. And Tracy, what did we have even when we were kids? We had a cootie shot, didn't we? You ever done a cootie shot? You circle around and then you punch it with your knuckle. That's a cootie shot. See, they are programming us even from back in the day, ladies and gentlemen. Boys and girls, children of all ages, cousins of all ages. The idea that there's cooties and that they cause disease and they must be controlled, they must be eliminated before any cure. It's so widespread and so universally accepted. The cootie cult is ubiquitous. That means everywhere. And most people's mind are already closed on the subject. Everybody knows that cooties are real. Everybody knows that germs are real. And everybody is satisfied. Why? Because everybody's been lied to from the beginning and they don't even know it. Two Trees with a great analogy. He says that germs are the firemen at the fire. Absolutely right. Germs show up to kill and take care of and dispose of disease. They don't cause it. And we're going to show you that very, very clearly tonight. Rabbits Warren says Mama said cooties weren't contagious after the 3rd grade. Well, Mama was right about that one. What, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, cousins of all ages? What if it's provable that not only is germ theory wrong, not only is cootie theory wrong, not only is the cootie cult wrong, but it's based on a fairy tale? What if I can prove to you that the cootie germ theory is a fairy tale and that the cootie germ theory is based upon invented, fraudulent data and media protection? What if we are practicing and receiving medicine in exactly the wrong way? What if we are practicing and receiving medicine in exactly the wrong way? And what if this scenario that we're in today in 2021, what if this scenario was planned back in the 1880s, the 1890s? And what if I could prove it to you? Do you owe yourself, do you owe your loved ones the time and effort to research your conclusions? Do you owe yourself and your loved ones the effort it takes to be objective? Tracy said our problem is the Branch Covidians. Tracy's on a roll tonight. The Branch Covidians. I love it. It's the cootie cult. The Branch Covidians. Perfectly said, Tracy. Perfectly said. Well, I don't know if you can be objective or not, but I'm going to give you the choice, the chance, and the opportunity. This is Louis Pasteur, a liar and a fraud. Louis Pasteur was a liar and a fraud. And a frog, too, because he was French. It's a joke. Pasteur was the first, not really, but the first, he was the one that got credit for promulgating the fraudulent germ theory. Greg Delmonico, $2 tip. Thank you so much. And I love to eat that which is your name. A Delmonico steak is delicious. Love Delmonico. Love ribeye. Good stuff. Thank you, Greg. I appreciate it. And where he got the germ theory from will shock you. That's what nobody knows except for this guy. But tonight I'm going to tell you all. There's compelling evidence that Pasteur discovered nothing. Nothing. And here's where I start to break the news that's never been broken before. And I'm serious. I'm not clickbaiting. I'm not employing hyperbole. This is something that's never been known before until now, tonight. It's being broken here on the Resistance Radio Network, over KYAH Radio, over Twitter, over Twitch, over Trovo, and over Rockfin, baby. He never discovered anything, Pasteur. But Pasteur was recruited, he was funded, and he was defended by a powerful cabal that used him for their own ends, those ends being world domination. And Pasteur, for his part, deliberately falsified, appropriated, which means stole, and perverted the work of others. Hang on, Tracy. In fact, germ theory, cootie theory, was discovered long before Pasteur was gifted it by his originators. Both Geronimo Frascatorio back in 1546 and H. Janssen in Holland back in 1683 published Pasteur's great theory a century before Pasteur. But they lacked the backing, they lacked the financing, and they lacked the publishing machine that made Pasteur and his jabs big business and powerful political weapons. Some of you see where I'm going, but wait till I prove it to you. You won't believe it. Let's talk about some heroes before we talk about these zeros. Florence Nightingale absolutely savagely trashed Louis Pasteur and his nonsensical ideas. You know who Florence Nightingale was, but let me remind you. Florence Nightingale was a social reformer. She was a statistician, and she was the founder of modern nursing. Florence Nightingale is really the founder of medical care as we know it today, real medical care. She is actually the founder of real medical care as we know it today. Florence Nightingale. She was born into wealth. Dude, I mean, she was big, big bucks, big, big money. But she took a road of service, even though she had big, big money. She was banging. And she came to prominence after dedicating her life to service while serving as a manager and trainer of nurses during the Crimean War, in which she organized care for wounded soldiers at Constantinople. She gave nursing a favorable reputation, and she became an icon of Victorian culture, especially in the persona of the lady with the lamp, making her rounds at night of wounded soldiers. She was a hero in every sense of the word. This is the mother of modern medicine as we know it. And she absolutely destroyed Pasteur. And let's watch the lady work, ladies and gentlemen. Florence Nightingale, her sister was Frances. I don't know, I'm just kidding. Florence Nightingale said, and I quote, "Diseases are not individuals arranged in classes like cats and dogs." That's calling Louis Pasteur out. That's calling germ theory out. Diseases are not individuals arranged in classes like cats and dogs, but they're conditions growing out of one another. It is a continual mistake to look upon disease as separate entities instead of looking upon them as conditions. Like dummies, dirty and clean. If disease is a condition, is it dirty or is it clean? It's clean. Disease is a dirty condition. My mistake. Disease is a dirty condition. No disease is a clean condition. If you keep your body clean, you'll have no disease. If you keep your environment clean, you'll have no disease. Clean host is healthy host. Dirty host is a sick host. And as she said, disease is not some cootie floating through the air that we're subject to the ravages of. Cooties, germs are under our control. not the reactions of nature outside the condition of our control. In other words, you don't have to have some lunatic jab a needle in your arm and shoot pus into your body to keep you from getting germs or killing germs, as long as you keep your host clean. Florence Nightingale said that, not Jeffrey Daugherty. Florence Nightingale. And this is what Florence Nightingale also said. Florence Nightingale said, true nursing ignores infection. Can you believe that? True nursing ignores infection, except to prevent it. And how do you prevent it? You prevent it by cleanliness, you prevent it by fresh air, and you prevent it by giving attention to your patient at all times. Florence Nightingale, the mother of medicine today, true medicine as we know it, says cleanliness, fresh air, and unremitting awareness of the patient are the only defense the true nurse needs. She also said the greater part of nursing is preserving cleanliness. And tell me if she savaged Pasteur or not. Tell me if she savaged germ theory or not. She said germ theory, cootie theory, is the refuge of the weak, uncultured, unstable minds, such as now rule in the medical profession. There are no specific diseases, only specific disease conditions, which are dirtiness. Tracy says, fresh air, you mean like no masks? They want us to wear a mask when the pioneer of modern medicine says the one thing you need is fresh air. It's almost like they're trying to get us sick. But certainly that can't be true. And I see in this statement that germ theory is the refuge of the weak, uncultured, unstable mind, such as now rule in the medical profession. I see this as Florence Nightingale seeing what I saw today, discovering what I discovered today or yesterday. I can't remember when it was. She knew where Pasteur got his information. She knew what these cootie cult people were doing. Of course, Florence Nightingale does need to learn how to stop holding back your feelings and tell people what she really thinks, right? She, Florence Nightingale, is responsible for modern medical care, true modern medical care as we know it. The most famous nurse in history, after lifelong experience with infection, contagion, and epidemics, trashed the germ theory. And she trashed it for 30 years before Pasteur, quote unquote, discovered it. She understood it as an utter fallacy before 1860 better than the fraud Pasteur did after 1878. And I think that she understood the source. Notice her earlier statement. And notice that she was a bit of a rabble rouser. She was a bit of a rabble rouser. Tortured soulster. I would choose a new name, because why do you want to call yourself tortured? But you're falling into the fear trap, I fear. Oh no, they've done bad things to our air. Well, they have done bad things to our air. They have done bad things to our water. They have done bad things to our food. But that shouldn't make us afraid. That should make us dedicated to getting as clean a water as we can get, as pure food as we can get, and as pure of air as we can get. But you can't let yourself think, oh, they put cooties in the air and it's going to kill us all. You're falling for their trap. You're falling for their trap. Your body is constructed to take a licking and keep on ticking. You're like a Timex back in the day. And I'm going to say this right here, and I'm going to say this right now. I don't care what they put in the air. I don't care what they chemtrail. I don't care what they put in the soil. I don't care what they put in the food. I don't care what they put in the water. This guy lives at a vibration and a frequency and maintains a host environment that is impervious to their assaults. Boom. It is pervious to their assault. And as long as you say you're tortured, you will be tortured. And that's your choice. I love you. I love you enough to tell you the truth. Walk around calling yourself tortured, and guess what? You're going to stay tortured. Stop calling yourself tortured, and things will change. But maybe you want something to feel bad about. So, hey, knock yourself out, bro. I'm just trying to help a brother out. I'm like Florence Nightingale. You can walk around and say, poor me, I'm tortured. If that makes you feel good, great. If you'd rather not be tortured, change your damn name and stop bringing that stuff upon yourself. I care enough to tell it to you. I'd say that to you if you were my brother, my mother, my sister, but you're just my cousin. Man, you got to change the way you think, or you'll be dead within a couple years. You got to change the way you think. You're killing yourself with your mind. You're killing yourself with your own words. Come on, bro. Turn it around. You can do it. All right, here we go. Let's talk about Béchamp. Pierre Jacques Antoine Béchamp, professor at the School of Pharmacy. Oh, I'm sorry. You're a stupid woman, not a stupid man. My bad. If you don't like what you're hearing, leave. I'm trying to help you. You're a self-fulfilling prophecy. You can change or you can't. But I'm done. He was a professor at the School of Pharmacy. He was a professor of medical chemistry and pharmacy, and he was Chevalier of the Legion of Honor. Béchamp developed an inexpensive method to produce aniline dye, which was permitting William Henry Perkin to launch the synthetic dye industry and make much money. It was Béchamp who discovered how fermentation works. It was Béchamp who saved the silkworm industry. And it was Béchamp who was the champion of host theory medicine. I'm really sorry that you choose to run away like a scared little girl because somebody tries to help you. Well, bye. You can lead somebody to water, but you can't make them drink. You can lead somebody to objective truth, but you can't make them think. Sometimes people are delusional. You got to try to slap them. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't. Go ahead and be tortured the rest of your life, or don't be. It's up to you. It's up to you. Béchamp, suppressed hero of medicine, and a handsome fellow. Germs are looked at, he said, as being the cause of the condition they are found with, rather than being the result of these conditions, which is their true relation to them. We think that cooties are what cause us to get sick, and the fact of the matter is we only get cooties after we're sick because we've done the wrong things. Bacteria found in man and animals does not cause disease. Bacteria in animals, in man, is just like bacteria in the soil or bacteria in sewage. It rebuilds dead or diseased tissues, and it gets rid of waste and toxins and pollutants. And it's well known, said this great man of science, it's well known that this great man of science said that diseases, germs, cannot or will not attack healthy tissue. Germs are important and necessary to human life and are harmless. Do you realize when you're slathering that sanitizer all over your hands, you're destroying positive germs that your body needs. You are. You're destroying positive germs that your body needs when you slather that stuff all over your hands. If you were smart, you wouldn't do it. If you were smart, you wouldn't do it. But some of you obviously would rather believe the lies and believe the fears than believe the truth and the reality that you're hearing here. This is the great man. This is the great man. This is the man that brought us the host theory, and he's giving us the simple truth. And by the way, did you notice that what Béchamp said squares completely with the experiential data given us by Florence Nightingale? From both experience and research, from both experience and science, we have proof that vaccination is a rich man's game. And we're about to see just how much and just how true that really is. How come some people get it and some people don't? One of the reasons why is because some people live in a focused life force energy environment and some people don't. Some people live in a high consciousness environment that is sent to them on their phone and on their home. Some people live in an environment that takes the EMFs that are put off of your devices and turns them into neutral or beneficial frequencies. That's borderline miraculous. Some people choose to live in this high consciousness on demand because some people have gone to JEFFERYDAUGHERTY.com. They've gone underneath the videos. They've clicked on the nanosoma button and the focused life force energy button. They've taken a 30-day trial. They've said, this is great stuff, and I've got to get it. I encourage you to do the very same thing. Vaccination is a rich man's game. You're about to see how true. Sunscreen has caused more cancer than the sun ever will. Louis Pasteur was a plagiarist. Pasteur's multiple plagiarisms have been hidden from history by the duplicity of the media, money, and medical cabal that recruited, funded, and promoted him. Such is the evidence of fraud on Pasteur's part that we should question everything that he ever put his signature to. The medical, media, moneyed cabal said of Pasteur that he's regarded as one of the fathers of germ theory of diseases, which was a minor medical concept at the time. Key. The germ theory, which everybody believes back when real medicine was practiced, nobody believed it because it was stupid, and it still is. His many experiments showed that diseases could be prevented by killing or stopping germs, thereby directly supporting the germ theory and its application in clinical medicine. That is what the medical media moneyed cabal says of Pasteur, and it is a lie. And I'm going to show you the supporting evidence that clearly demonstrates that the germ theory is not only a lie, it's a fantasy, and it's a false flag that was part and parcel and is part and parcel of the Zio-communist world takeover. Even the supporters of Pasteur admit that historical reassessment of his notebook revealed that he practiced deception to overcome his rivals. In other words, he was a plagiarist and a liar. How are you going to follow somebody like that? How are you going to follow somebody like that? How are you going to trust your life to somebody like that? You're smarter than that. Louis Pasteur was recruited by Zionists to roll out the idea of vaccinations and put the ball in motion. Here comes the facts that you've never heard. Less known about Pasteur is the fact that he owes his greatest discoveries to a chance reading of the Talmud. The Talmud, which 1,500 years before Pasteur was born, actually advanced the notion that the administration of a weak form of a disease to humans could cause immunity to its virulent version. Do you understand what you just read? Pasteur got the idea for vaccination from the Talmud. Read that again. Louis Pasteur got the idea of vaccination from the Talmud. Pasteur got his science from the Talmud. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, cousins of all ages, I'm about to prove to you what you've never ever heard before. Vaccination is a Talmudic invention. And so was Louis Pasteur. It's a rich man's game. And this game of these rich men is a long play. Prepare to have your cranium exploded. Louis Pasteur was a Zionist recruit. And this story that no one's ever heard before, this story begins with Rabbi Dr. Israeli Michael Rabinowitz. Rabbi Dr. Israeli Michael Rabinowitz. You can't get any more Zadokim than that. Rabbi Dr. Israeli Michael Rabinowitz was a descendant of a long line of rabbis. He pursued his rabbinical studies, and after earning his rabbi degree, that's what that word means, he studied Greek and Latin. Folks, if there's two things that rabbis don't study, one of them's Greek and one of them's Latin. What is a rabbi? A rabbi is a Jewish clergyman, correct? Are you with me so far? A rabbi is a Jewish clergyman. What is the language of the Jewish clergyman? Hebrew. What are Greek and Latin? Greek and Latin are the languages of Roman Catholicism and Roman Christianity. Roman Catholicism and Roman Protestantism. Greek and Latin are the languages for those religions. Thank you, sweetheart. So why in the world is a rabbi studying Greek and Latin? Why is a rabbi studying the languages of Christianity? And then he goes to the University of Breslau, where he studies philology and medicine. This man, Rabbi Dr. Israeli Michael Rabinowitz, was as Jesuit as the Jesuits get. He was Jesuit trained to be an infiltrator. He was hand-selected to woo the arrogant, fame-seeking Pasteur. Pasteur was a blowhard. I could name you 3 people right now that are just the same kind of people as Louis Pasteur, but I won't because I don't want to give them the publicity. Not just Catholics' pajamas, Roman Catholics and Roman Protestants. The man was trained to be an infiltrator. The man was trained to infiltrate, thank you, baby, Christianity and Christians. He was trained to infiltrate the West. They identified Pasteur as their patsy. Ooh, Louis Pasteur, Louis Patsy. It's a word play. That just came to me. It's a word play. Louis Pasteur, Louis Patsy. It is a word play. What does Pasteur mean? Pasteur, meaning. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't really have a definition. It's just his name. But Pasteur, Patsy, I think there's a connection. Thank you, Ion Sky. And this rabbi, doctor, Jesuit infiltrator went to Paris in 1854 to complete his medical studies. Of all the places to go, he went to Paris. He earned his MD in 1865, but never practiced medicine. Why? Because he was never, ever meant to be a doctor, just a spy. And Rabinowitz, who just happened to go to Paris and just happened to seek out Louis Pasteur and just happened to become his friend and just happened one day to show him his translation of the Talmud. Do you understand, ladies and gentlemen, that Jews are not evangelical? Jews do not seek recruits. They never have. They're not trying to convert people. They don't say, oh, have you read of the Talmud, my friend? Have you heard about present world conditions? They're not Jehovah's Witnesses, these Jews. They don't care about you, and they certainly don't want you joining their club. But this Jew was different. This Zadokим was different because he was trained to go to Paris and find Louis Pasteur. He of huge ego. He of huge ambition. He of huge avarice. He was sent to Paris to find Pasteur, to befriend him, and to show him his translation of the Talmud order Moed. Now, you have to know a little about the Moed. The Moed has to do with all the rules and regulations of all the Jewish festivals, which are the basis for their unique ties to chosen people. Actually, is Genesis 1, what is this? Genesis 1:14, 15. It's right in the first chapter of Genesis. And God said, let there be lights, Moed. What is Moed? It's the order of light. The lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night. They want to be the ones that divide light from dark. They want to be the ones with the signs. Guess what? Let them be for signs. What does your script tell you? It's a wicked and an adulterous generation that seeks after signs. Who seeks signs? The Jews seek signs. The Roman Catholics seek signs. The Roman Protestants seek signs. We're going to talk about it tomorrow night. Bible prophecy. They all want signs. Why? Because they're all complicit in the Zionist communistic plan for destroying and taking over this world. And boom, you see it playing out. The Moed literally set the parameters for Jewish society. So he sits down with Pasteur. Patsy, you are. He sits down with Pasteur and starts evangelizing Pasteur, which Jews don't do. Thank you, Kurt. And just in case you are wondering, it's on page 83b of Tractate Yama. And Pasteur became fascinated by this Talmudic discussion. He started seeing dollar signs and fame flashing before his eyes. In page 83b of Tractate Yoma, the rabbis describe the 5 signs of a rabid dog. A rabid dog has an open mouth, they're taught. A rabid dog has dripping saliva, they're taught. The rabid dog has his tails between his paws, they're taught. The rabid dog has a normal gait, they're taught. That's a walk. And droopy ears. So Pasteur, coached by this rabbi doctor, is shown these signs of a mad dog. And we're going to talk about what mad dog really means. And Pasteur becomes intrigued by the ancient Hebrew wisdom. He should have gone with ancient Chinese wisdom. Ancient Chinese wisdom. Much better than ancient Hebrew. I didn't say that because it's, it was another language. I find it very interesting that Pasteur became intrigued by ancient Hebrew wisdom, particularly the prescribed cure for a person bitten by a rabid dog. Is someone, and here was the key, here was the solution. If someone gets bitten by a mad dog, one should feed him the lobe of that dog's liver with a nice Chianti. And by the way, for those of you keeping track at home, the dog is a non-kosher animal. So why is a rabbi saying to eat a dog when a dog is non-kosher? Ooh. This begins to interest me. The rabbis considered eating the dog's liver to be legitimate to cure a serious illness and therefore permitted it to be eaten. No, they didn't. That's not true. Let me tell you what is true. Let's review. In the Talmud, page 83b, Tractate Yoma, the 5 signs of a rabid dog: open mouth, dripping saliva, tail between paws, abnormal gait, droopy ears. If you get bit by such a dog, the cure is to eat that dog's liver, even though a dog isn't kosher and you're not supposed to eat them under any circumstances. Stay with me. In Talmudic, Zionistic, Kabbalistic literature, dogs always relate to Gentiles. Always. 2 trees with the $10 tip saying, I knew it had something to do with rabies. Not sure how I knew. I just knew. Stay with me. You're going to be blown away. Dogs always relate to Gentiles in Talmudic, Zionistic, Kabbalistic literature. So I'm telling you that this rabid dog is not talking about a 4-legged dog. And how would Zadokim, Zionist, chosen people who hate us describe us? As mad dogs. Our mouths are always open. We're dripping saliva because we're so stupid. We've got our tail between our legs because we're frightened of them. We don't even walk normally because we're not even really humans. We're animals. That's why we don't walk normally. And we have big droopy ears. This discussion from the Talmud has got nothing to do with 4-legged dogs. It's got to do with Gentiles. How do you know, Jeff? Because dogs always relate to Gentiles in Talmudic, Zionistic, Kabbalistic literature. So the Talmud tells us, stay with me. The Talmud tells us that when a Zadokим gets bitten by a dog, a mad dog, so when a Zadokim gets injured by a Gentile, When a Zadokim is bitten by a mad dog, I submit to you the distinct possibility, at least, and I'm right 100%, that this actually refers to a Zadokim individual being wronged by a Gentile and has nothing at all to do with real dogs. What's the prescription? Eat the dog's liver. Liver is a delicacy if you're a cannibal. And I've proven to you over and over and over and over and over that from the beginning of the Zadokim religion right down through to today, which includes Roman Christianity, Roman Catholicism, Roman Protestantism, they've been eating children from day one. Humans are kosher. So when they tell you to eat the dog's liver, they're telling you to eat the liver of the Gentile that dared. Eat the liver of the Gentile that dared. Eat the liver of that wild, mad, slobbering dog that dared wrong you. And this Zadokim spy maneuvered Louis Pasteur, Louis. He maneuvered Louis Pasteur into taking literally a metaphorical piece of ancient Hebrew scripture. And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, cousins of all ages, vaccination comes from ancient Talmudic, ancient Zionistic, ancient Kabbalistic, black magic, cannibal wisdom. Vaccination comes from Zadokim cannibalism. And you cannot deny it. It's right there for everyone to see. So when President Donald Trump is telling you to get a vaccine, he's complicit with the Zadokim. Period. They knew that vaccination was a bogus science. They just needed a spokesperson so they could sell it. And it could be a Zadokim because nobody trusts the Zadokim. They needed a spokesperson. They wanted to get the vaccine protocol into their plans for world domination. Listen to me. They wanted to get the vaccine protocol into their plans for world domination, which they were formatting in the late 1800s. This is the time of the protocols of the learned elders of Zion. This is all part of it. Those came out about this time. Vaccination came out about this time. And there's another couple of things that came out about this time that we'll go and show you as we go. They wanted this vaccine protocol for their plans of world domination. And we're going to show you that vaccination actually causes disease. Vaccination causes the majority of the cancers that we have. Vaccination causes the majority of heart disease that we have, and I'm going to prove it to you. Vaccination, heart disease, and cancer just happen to be the three biggest profit centers of modern, quote-unquote, medicine. They also happen to be the pillars of a fear matrix takeover strategy that we're taking the full brunt of right now. Pasteur understood the Talmud. Think of what you just heard. Read that again. Pasteur understood the Talmud to be teaching that the way to cure infectious ailments was to introduce small amounts of the infection, the poison, into the organism, the man, the woman, the boy, the girl, the animal. And he hypothesized based on the Talmud, based on a literal interpretation of a metaphorical ancient fairy tale. He hypothesized that an infected body produces antibodies, which could then attack the invading infection. Where did he get the idea? From the Talmud, not any type of true science. Pasteur next applied this immunization method, and he coined the term vaccines for his artificially weakened bacteria. The first thing he used was a vaccine to prevent anthrax, which was a feared killer of sheep and cattle. Okay, guys. We got dogs, we got sheep, we got cattle. We got dog, we got sheep, we got cattle. And Pasteur's first vaccines were for cattle, sheep, and dogs. And he got the science from the Talmud. When the Zaddikim are not calling us dogs, they're calling us sheep or cattle. Do you really think that it's a coincidence that the vaccines that Pasteur got the idea from via a Talmudic spy just happened to be aimed at dogs and sheep and cattle? If you think that's all a coincidence, then you're probably not smart enough to be here. You should go watch TikTok or something, because this is way too advanced for your simple little mind. And while you make that decision of whether you can stay or not, we're going to introduce you to one of our great sponsors. You're listening to Late Night in the Heartland. I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the mailman. I'm bringing it strong. I am completing my appointed rounds, whether you like it or not. It's getting in your box. You got mail. You got mail. You may not want it, but you got it. What you going to do with this mail? What you going to do with this truth that's breaking out all over you, brother? What you going to do? It's up to you. I'm just here to give you the chance, to give you the opportunity to unindoctrinate yourself. Whether you do it or not ain't my business. But I think you take care of some business, and we'll be right back after this business is taken care of, yo.
Hey everybody, I'm Andrew from EMP Shield, and today I'm excited to show you our new technology, the world's first whole home EMP protection device. With over 37 models that can be used around the world, our family of EMP protection devices installs easily in minutes. Being employed this year by federal organizations and electrical companies, the EMP Shield has been tested at Keystone Compliance, a federally approved DoD testing facility. Also serving as one of the world's fastest whole home surge protection devices, working in less than 1 nanosecond, the EMP Shield will protect against electromagnetic pulses, coronal mass ejections, lightning, and all forms of power surges. Proven to withstand more than 40 EMP strikes with zero degradation, the EMP Shield is also one of the world's strongest surge protectors, capable of withstanding over 100,000 amps. So, thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to like our video and post any comments you have down below. We're sure you guys are going to have quite a few questions, so our engineers are going to be on standby to answer any questions you may have. Most importantly, be sure to share our video, as we're sure your friends are also going to be interested in our new technology. Help us get an EMP Shield into every house in America. Thanks again for watching. Bye.
That is the EMP Shield. And all you have to do is go to empshield.com and use the coupon code unindoctrinate, and you'll get $50 off. What's better than an EMP Shield device? An EMP Shield device at $50 off. That's what's happening, ladies and gentlemen. Go ahead and take advantage of that. And those are made right here in the Heartland, ladies and gentlemen, right here in the Heartland. So we're proud to represent them. Have you finished picking up your craniums? Have you finished picking up your craniums, ladies and gentlemen? Have you finished picking up your craniums? It's so glad that I'm a better person than I used to be. Because I used to feed the trolls. I still don't like the trolls, but let's don't feed the trolls. They'll go away if we just ignore them. All right, folks. Let's get back into this. Believe it or not, we're just getting started. Just getting started. We will see that rabies is a fraud. It's not real. We will see that the anthrax vaccine kills. We will see how all of this was covered up and paid for. And this will make the truth abundantly clear for anyone that cares. Pasteur's Zionist financiers hid the horror of his anthrax failure. Do you know that just about every single, not even just about, every single flock of sheep and cattle that the Pasteur anthrax vaccine was injected into, every single sheep and cattle that got Pasteur's anthrax disease died. And if you feel the need to come into the chat room and say you're not a troll, you probably are. Every single animal that got the Pasteur anthrax virus died. And every single animal that was in a flock or a herd where animals got the Pasteur anthrax vaccine died. Every one of them. And yet, Pasteur's Zionist financiers, the people paying his way, hid the horror of his anthrax failures. They faked the success through the media they controlled. They suppressed the death statistics via the media and medical industry they controlled. Does that sound familiar? And they paid off the farmers whose flocks were killed. Why? So that Pasteur's vaccines could pave the way for the manufacture of other vaccines. And the ultimate result of Pasteur's Talmudic knowledge and financing was the development of a mad science that has killed countless millions of animals and humans, as we will soon see. As we will soon see. And because I am who I am, and because I am who I am, like Popeye, I am what I am. I have proof of Zionist funding for Pasteur. In an original and historic handwritten letter of October 28, 1888, Louis Pasteur wrote in French to Cecile Furtado Heine, one of the Institute's major benefactors, the Institute being the Pasteur Institute in Paris. Cecile Furtado Heine was a French Zionist Jewish philanthropist, which means a money lady, renowned for providing financial assistance to charitable causes, i.e., ones that the Zionists want to leverage. Ones that the Zionists want to leverage. Cecile's grandfather was Joseph Furtado. He was the Rav, a fancy rabbi of Bayonne. In fact, the Rav is, wait for it, Chabadist, Kabbalistic. Like Trump, Ivanka, Donald, like Kushner. Her father was the nephew of Abraham Furtado, a Paris banker. Well, imagine that. Because if you've got a Jewish philanthropist, you got to have a Jewish banker, right? Who also served as the secretary of the Grand Sanhedrin that Napoleon famously convened. So just wait a second. This crazy Jeff that everybody hates, and he's so stupid, and he knows nothing, and everybody else is way smarter, and he's just a bad guy. He's just a flamethrower. He's just a guy that knows nothing. This Jeff that nobody believes is showing you that Pasteur was handpicked and fed the lie, the Zionist lie, the Talmudic Zionist lie. That is the foundation of all vaccination. And they paid him. And they paid the people whose flocks and children he killed. And they kept it out of the press that they controlled. And in case you were wondering, they run the Sanhedrin. Pasteur was recruited, funded, and protected by the capital K-A-B-A-L cabal. The top. What does that show you? That shows you how important this plan was to them. It wasn't mid-level. It wasn't low-level. It was the top of the cabal working to recruit Pasteur so they could defame Béchamp and Nightingale and get a guy that could sell their pus shots and open up the pus shot industry so it could be part and parcel of them taking over the world, which they're doing right now. This was planned in the 1880s, what you see today. Another important Jewish Tzaddikim patron who helped launch the Pasteur Institute was Daniel Ifla Osiris. Born in Bordeaux to a Jewish family, he made his fortune in Paris investing in the Spanish railways. A student of archaeology who collected Egyptian relics, he changed his name. Key. When Tzaddikim people change their names, they're changing their names to become crypto Jews, Moranos. They change their Jewish name. They change their Tzaddikim name so they're not easily recognized as being Tzaddikim. That's why this guy changed his Tzaddikim name to Ifla Osiris. And of course, it was after the Egyptian god of light, because remember, the Moad is about lights, and they are trying to destroy health. It's so clear. Why can't you see it? Open your eyes and see. And Osiris is also a type of plastic Jesus. Not only was he a major supporter of the Pasteur Institute during his lifetime, but he also bequeathed much of his incredible fortune after he died. He bequeathed much of his incredible fortune after he died. How about that? How about that, ladies and gentlemen? How about that? How about that? How about that? Taking a little pause to do some cleanup. Taking a little pause to give you a chance to catch up, because this is a lot of data. This is a lot of data. The Pasteur Institute for Health, Medicine, and Biology in Palestine was founded in Jerusalem in 1933 by a young Zionist physician who had made Aliyah, that means went to Israel from Russia in 1913. What was he doing in Russia? Oh, he was helping foment the other part of the world Zionist communist takeover, a little thing called communist revolution. Another thing called communist revolution. Please don't feed the trolls. So this is so key. What were the Zadokim doing in the 1880s, 1890s? They were putting together their plans for communist revolution. They were putting together their plans for vaccination. They were putting together their plans for domination of the media. They were putting together their plans for domination of medicine, domination of the medical industry, domination of the banking industry. They were putting together then everything that we see being rolled out today. And if you'd quit acting like children in the chat room, you'd get this, and it would change your life. And he made Aliyah from Russia, and he commenced operation with the support of the World Zionist Organization. The World Zionist Organization. Pasteur was Zionist recruited, Zionist funded, and Zionist protected. This fellow's ambition was to establish the Pasteur Institute consistent with Zionist aspirations to develop a national entity incorporating a strong scientific foundation. The importance of a biological lab in New Israel found expression even at early discussions in the Zionist Congress. I'm telling you, it was all part of from the beginning. The Pasteur Institute was part of a health complex that included a mother and child health center. Think of that. Operated by Hadassah and sponsored by noted Jewish philanthropist Nathan Strauss. It performed standard microbiological activities, including the production of cholera, smallpox, and rabies vaccines. From the beginning, communist revolution, vaccination, control of media, control of finance, control of politics, control of the monetary system, control of the legal system. It's all been a plan. This is the literal outworking of the protocols of the learned elders of Zion. This is it being fulfilled in real life. Let's talk about rabies now. Rabies is the Zionist lie that the vax scam is built on. I've noticed that the media is now using VAXX because it's a nod to Double X, which is the Zadokim porn industry. See, they always want to get a little in. In 1878, well after his acquaintance with the ancient Hebrew wisdom of the Talmud, Pasteur read before the Academy of Science the theory of germs in his first attempt to sell germ theory. According to the Farmer's Bulletin number 449 of the U.S. Agricultural Department, the U.S. Department of Agriculture states, and I quote, "No one can catch rabies from an animal that bites them unless the animal has the disease. Furthermore," says the U.S. Department of Agriculture, "less than 15%, with most doctors placing the percentage closer to zero, less than 15% of people bitten by an infected animal will contract rabies. Less than 15% of people bitten by a dog that's got rabies, by a raccoon that's got rabies, by a cat that's got rabies. Less than 15% of people, no vaccine, bitten by a rabid animal will ever get rabies. Less than 15%. For those of you that are Christians and you just stumbled over here, that means if 100 people get bit by a rabid dog, 85 of them got nothing to worry about. There's a society in New York that doesn't like this idea of cutting the heads off of dogs and cats to further a Zionistic agenda. And they have gone on record, the New York Anti-Vivisection Society, declaring rabies is a very rare disease, except where dogs have been infected with a rabies vaccine, in which case it very often develops. How do dogs get rabies? By getting a rabies shot. How do people get rabies? By getting a rabies shot. You've got a far better chance of getting rabies from getting a rabies shot than you do from being bitten by a dog with rabies, according to the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Competent authorities claim that in actual rabies cases, a dog never foams at the mouth. So much for the Talmud. The Talmud says that a dog foams at the mouth when he has rabies. Authorities say he doesn't foam at the mouth when he has rabies. Only a small amount of brownish, stringy discharge hang from the lips, but the eyes do have a fiery glare. And yet, every single one of you, before you heard this, would have said, oh, yeah, if a dog has rabies, he foams at the mouth. Who said that? The Talmud. Pasteur. The liars. See? We got to stop repeating stuff that we hear. Dogs with rabies never foam at the mouth. Doctors say that the bite of a rabid dog is absolutely harmless to man. If you get bitten by a rabid dog, it's going to hurt, but there's no harm. Now we know why they made Old Yeller. C.W. Dulles, M.D., a famous authority on dog diseases and hydrophobia, which is rabies. This is a doctor that specializes in dog diseases. This is a doctor that specializes in rabies. And this doctor says that over 1 million dogs and cats, that's a lot of dogs. That's a lot of cats. Two Trees reports that rabies is a wasting disease found when animals are dying, not necessarily transmittable. It's not. Over 1 million dogs and cats that he researched were handled by dog catchers over 14 years. 14 years. 1 million dogs and cats handled by dog catchers, and we would presume cat catchers, with many thousands of bites. Millions of dogs and cats, 14 years, thousands of bites, not one shot, and not one single case of rabies. And over 1 million dogs and cats handled by dog catchers over 14 years. No vaccines for dog, no vaccine for cat, no vaccine for dudes and dudettes that are handling them. This was back, remember, 1880s, 1890s. He and other doctors posted for years a standing offer of $100 to $1,000. And back in 1880, let's see, let me just see. $1,000 in 1890 value. How much would that be? Oh, that's about $30,000 today. So let's contextualize it. They're offering a $30,000 reward for one genuine case of dog rabies. $30,000. Hey, if you can show me one dog that's really had rabies, if you're in the chat, here's a chance for you to make some money. $30,000 for a genuine case of dog rabies. No takers. No takers. Even though thousands of dogs are being killed yearly due to rabies scares. $30,000 and not one person showed up with a rabid dog. Not a one. Nary a one. In France, the death rate of humans with rabies is 18%, the highest in the world, ever since the establishment of the Pasteur Institute in France, in Paris. After mass inoculations of rabies vaccine from the Pasteur Institute, the French cases exploded. 18% of people in France, as a result of getting the rabies vaccine, were dying of rabies. And funny thing was, across the Rhine River in Germany, no Pasteur Institute, no vaccines, and no rabies. The year before Pasteur started his rabies vaccines, there were 4 deaths from rabies in Paris. After the first year, there were 24. And by the time Pasteur got cranked up, 18% of the people who had rabies in France were being killed by his vaccine. England had many Pasteur Institutes, which led to a massive outbreak of rabies. And the English said, we had no rabies until we had a Pasteur Institute. Now we got a Pasteur Institute. We got all this rabies. Shut the things down. They banned the Pasteur Institutes, and guess what happened? Rabies disappeared. Rabies disappeared. Facts, ladies and gentlemen. Here's why they did it. 3,000 persons in England died after being bitten by dogs and then getting the rabies vaccine. What is 85% of this? Will put things into context for you. 85% of 3,000. 3,000 times 0.85 equals 2,550 of those 3,000 people that got bit by a dog had nothing to worry about. But instead, they got a vaccine and they died. 2,550 of them, if they hadn't got the vaccine, would not have died. And if you don't believe me, after they banned the vaccine, 2,668 people were bitten, did not get the vaccine, and not a single one of them developed rabies. Not a single one of them developed rabies. Today, in the world that we live in, there's a thing out there that they say has a cure rate of let's just say 99%, which means even if you got it 99 out of 100 times, you'll be fine. But what do they want to do? They want to give you a vaccine. And the vaccine is killing people by the thousands and millions. This condition isn't. The vaccine is. Why? Because this is what vaccines were made to do. They are Zadokim black magic. We've been seduced into taking them, and they're doing exactly what they've always done. Of the 6,000 or so reported cases of dog bites in England, only those who received the vaccine from the Pasteur Institute died. 6,000 people bitten by dogs. Only the ones that got the vaccine died. Who funded that institute again? Oh, yeah, the Zadokim. The Pasteur rabies treatment is the cause of rabies. It's always dangerous. It's sometimes murderous, and it's never beneficial. And did you notice that rabies and rabbis, very, very similar. Rabies and rabbis are very, very similar. Dr. J.W. Dobson of New York said, if people would just think for themselves and not blindly follow, we'd soon be relieved of rabies. If people would just think for themselves and not blindly follow, all this nonsense that we're going through today would go bye-bye. And the Zio media still continues to lie, even though, well, if you're numb, maybe you'll hush. I can only hope. Maybe you'll become unable to type and unable to troll because you're numb. I hope so. The rabbis vaccine, the rabbis' rabies vaccine, because it came from rabbis. Come on, guys. Rabies came from rabbis. Do you really think there's a reason why it's called rabies? It's rabbis, rabies, rabbis. The rabbis' vaccine is used to prevent rabbis. If only we had a vaccine to prevent rabbis. The rabies vaccine is used to prevent rabies. There's a number of rabies vaccines available that are both safe and effective. They can be used to prevent rabies before and for a period of time after exposure to rabies, which is commonly caused by a dog bite or a bat bite. That's Wikipedia. They know the same data we do, but they lie. It's recommended that those who are at a high risk of exposure be vaccinated before potential exposure because we want to kill lots of people. Rabies vaccines are effective in humans and other animals. If by effective you mean it kills them, and that's what they're supposed to do, so they're not lying. See, this is how they work. They're telling you that the rabbi's rabies vaccine is effective in humans and animals because it was designed to kill them. It's killing them, so it's effective. And vaccinating dogs is very effective in preventing the spread of rabies to humans because it kills them. And then the humans take it and it kills them. Long-lasting immunity develops because you're dead. You can't catch rabies when you're dead. Rabies may be safely used by all groups of ages if you want to die. About 35 to 45% of people develop a brief period of redness and pain at the injection site. 5 to 15% may experience fever, headaches, and nausea. The untreated virus is always fatal, except it's not. We have hundreds of years of medical science saying that if you get bit by a rabid dog, you have almost zero chance of dying. But if you get the vaccine, sayonara, sweetheart, you're dead. And guess what? I hate to tell this to you, but somebody has to do it. If you get this vaccine that they're shopping now, you're dead. You're dead. You're dead. Don't do it. And if you've done it, get some nanosoma. Hopefully it can save you. And by the way, this rabbi's rabies vaccine that's a proven killer, it's on the World Health Organization's list of essential medicines. Because what are the World Health Organization's essential medicines meant to do? Kill you. Pasteur's rabies vaccine is proven medical quackery. It causes rabies. It doesn't cure it. It's been repeatedly demonstrated. It does not come from medical knowledge, but from ancient Hebrew Talmudic fantasy. The Zadokim media protects the medical establishment, and the Zadokim propaganda machine pushes the rabbi's rabies vaccine that comes from its own religious fairy tales. And the cabal uses the rabbi's rabies to justify the vaccine agenda. Now you're starting to see. Now you're starting to understand how this whole thing is working together. The communism, the revolution, the socialism, the control, the vaccines. It all comes together. Now, this is a graphic I pulled off of this program that I used to make these slides. Notice the blue eyes in the nasty vaccine that's going to kill you, the nasty bug that's going to kill you. Blue eyes. Do you think that's a coincidence? You're not very bright if you think it's a coincidence. But the rabbi's rabies was the first punch. But hold on, here comes the rabbi's tuberculosis. The rabbi's rabies and tuberculosis are the Ziovax 1-2 punch. Having exposed the fraud of Pasteur's rabies vaccine, let's look at the other great savior vaccine, that of tuberculosis. Koch, who was a German scientist who studied these things, says, I put one little speck of tubercle into a beast 6 weeks ago. Was he talking about a human, a Gentile, or was he talking about a dog? I don't know. But he puts one little speck of tubercle into a person, into a beast. And after 6 weeks, when there could have been more than a few hundred bacilli in that small bit, now they've grown into the billions. From one small point in the guinea pig's groin, they've sneaked everywhere in his body. They've gnawed through the walls of his arteries. The blood has carried them into his bones, into the furthest corner of his brain. Let me repeat that. We're talking about the vaccine. We're talking about a tuberculosis vaccine. What is a tuberculosis vaccine? It's a little speck of tuberculosis, little weak speck of tuberculosis, just a little speck. Because the Talmud said this is how you get healed. This little speck goes into you, little speck, little speck. And what happens? Give it a few weeks, and now that little speck has grown into the billions. From one small point on your arm, from one small point on your butt, where they gave you the shot, from one small point. Get it? A point, a shot. From one small point, it sneaks everywhere in your body, gnaws through the walls of your arteries. Your blood carries the poison into your bones and into the furthest corner of your brains. Think about this when you think about this great job you have that's worth injecting this into yourself. Think about this when it's time to put your kids in school or when they come home with a note that says, "Oh, mommy, it's vaccine day. Will you sign this?" Read those words one more time before I go to the next slide. Read those words one more time before I go to the next slide. Oh, shit. Sorry. Thing's been sitting there for 2 hours, and it still did that fizzy thing on me. And somewhere Cynthia's laughing. Last time it happened, she laughed. These vaccine injuries, they're not new. They knew about this from the start. They have known since the 1880s that vaccines, all of them, dissolve red blood cells. That's why the rabbis are trying to get them into you. They've known that vaccines affect heart valves. Dr. E.C. Rosenau of the Mayo Clinic said 100 years ago that certain varieties of germs in vaccines have an affinity for heart valves. How did they know? Because in 1925, the Chicago Health Department stated that, more children of the ages 10 to 14 die of heart disease in Chicago than all of the other children diseases put together. And then they said, well, son of a gun, it was extremely rare for a child to have heart disease until Chicago became a leading center for school immunizations. Why do you think heart disease has exploded across the Western world? One reason, because vaccines have exploded across the Western world. And they're immunizing your children. Guess what the leading cause of death worldwide is? Take a guess. The leading cause of death worldwide is heart disease. So what's the number one profit center in medicine worldwide? Heart disease. And what do we know heart disease comes from? Vaccines, which happens to be in the top 3 of the biggest profit centers in medicine. Heart disease, according to Dr. Frederick Hoffman, who, in a rare bout of honesty, he's the consulting statistician of Prudential Insurance. He says that heart disease in all civilized countries is the leading cause of death. And then he went on to say, rabbits, I have to take exception. There's no way to know the long-term or generational effects of vaccines. Yeah, there are. They kill people. But all civilized countries, the leading cause of death is heart disease. And, says the doctor, the rates continue to skyrocket, directly analogous to the introduction of vaccination. Let me see. The biggest killer in the world is heart disease. And heart disease comes from vaccines. And vaccines come from the Talmud, the Zaddikim, ergo, the Zaddikim are trying to kill us. Oh, yeah, they told us that they're trying to kill us. Vaccines cause heart disease, the most profitable medical condition in the world, and they cause tuberculosis. Vaccines do. Often vaccines substitute a new disease for the one that you're inoculated against. Vaccines cause disease. It's been conclusively proven that vaccination for one disease can start another disease, for which you need another vaccine, and so on and so on. Delta variant, anyone? Booster shot, anyone? We're going to give you a vaccine. It's going to make you sick, but don't worry. We'll give you another vaccine for that, and then we'll give you another vaccine for that and that and that. How long have they known it? Well, prior to World War I, for those of you who aren't into math, that's the early 1900s. Upon giving the typhoid vaccine to soldiers, they found that a new typhoid popped up. No problem. We'll give them another vaccine for the new typhoid. And when they gave another vaccine for the new typhoid that came from the vaccine for the old typhoid, well, son of a gun, they got another typhoid. So they gave them 3 shots. And then they gave them a 4th shot. And do you know what the 4th strain was called? It was called influenza. Let me give you the rest of the story. It was 1918. This Spanish flu that you hear about, the 1918 Spanish flu, the horrible Spanish flu, how was it caused? It was caused by the vaccines that they gave to the soldiers for World War I and the way they mutated. The Zadikim killed how many people in World War I? How many died in World War I? The Zadikim killed over 15 million people in World War I. How many people died of Spanish flu? Spanish flu. Another 50 million. And the rabbis, their complacent media tells us vaccines are effective. You bet they're effective. How many hundreds of millions of people have they killed because they work exactly the way they're meant to work? The Zadikim, World War I, inoculation, Spanish flu, World War II. Now they're coming for you. You've never heard this before because I don't think it's ever been said before. This is why you're here. And this is why you're going to help me spread this message of unindoctrination. Said the then Surgeon General of the United States. Forget what I say. But the Surgeon General of the United States in 1918 said the paratyphoid, that means the new typhoid that came from the shot for the old typhoid, profoundly modified in vaccinated individuals. Mutation is rampant, and vaccination is only partly protective. Most doctors will confess that it's nearly impossible to stop such a mutated pathogen. So let's give them some more freaking shots. The mutations of the 1918 variety may run in up to 80% of all vaccines. Today, 80% of all vaccines have mutations that go all the way back to 1918. And it makes vaccines unfit for human use. It seems that if we allow ourselves to be vaccinated and do not contract another disease, it's either an accident or due to our own natural immunity. The nation of Hungary banned Pasteur Pasteurian vaccinations. After Pasteur's anthrax virus killed all the animals subjected to inoculation. Did you hear that? In Hungary, every single sheep, cow that got the Pasteur vaccination died. It follows from this, said the Hungarian government, that the Pasteur vaccinations tend to accelerate the actions of latent diseases. That means diseases that are hanging out in your body. You get a rabies shot, you get a tetanus shot, and it activates cancer or heart disease in your body. Vaccinations tend to accelerate the actions of latent diseases and hasten the mortal issue of other afflictions, said the Hungarian government in 1881. They've known it for a minute, ladies and gentlemen. Italy also saw all of its sheep, vaxxed and non-vaxxed, die after the vaccine was introduced. In Russia, 4,564 sheep were vaccinated. 3,661 of them died. That's over 81%. Dr. Lutad, in a book called Etudes sur la rage, said that Pasteur's financial backers paid great sums for the losses to vaccines, and the work went on. Pasteur's Zionist backers recruited him, lured him in, fed him the Sadakim lies, funded his vaccines, pushed him through their propaganda machine. Through their control of the media, they hid his failures. Through their financial control, they paid off the people that he killed and maimed and who lost their flocks. And they continued to tell their lies and spread this science, this mad science of vaccination. Why? Because it's part and parcel of their plan for world domination. It's part of the communism, part of the control. Vaccines is part of the plan from the beginning. You've never heard it anywhere else before. And Pasteur got the same results with his foot and mouth disease vaccine. In the book, Horrors of Vaccination by C.M. Higgins, the official publications of the United States government ascribe several epidemics of foot and mouth disease directly to the use of vaccines. The Secretary of Agriculture in 1914 tied them to vaccines as well. Dr. J. Garth Wilkinson, when a drug is administered by mouth, it encounters a series of chemical laboratories where it's analyzed, synthesized, and deleterious matter prepared for ejection via digestion. But when nature's coat, the skin, is violated, this line of defense is outflanked, and almost nothing can be done to hinder the drug. Even pure water can act as a violent poison when injected into the bloodstream. How much more so the poisons of vaccination? Doctors who vaccinate are guilty of malpractice, says Dr. J. Garth Wilkinson. Vaccines are injurious. Forcing vaccines on individuals by law is one of the worst tyrannies imaginable, and it should be resisted, even to the death of those enforcing it. I'm quoting from the book. Béchamp and Pasteur. And the author's name is, I put the book back on the shelf. The entire fabric of germ theory rests upon assumptions that not only have been proven, but which are incapable of proof. Many can be proven to be the reverse of truth. Against the body of a healthy man, Parliament has no right of assault, neither does the Congress, whatsoever under the pretense of public health, nor against the body of a healthy infant. No laws are just that assault the body or violate the conscience. I can only give my hearty assent. The New York Supreme Court stated in 1910, I have charged you that the assault that is claimed to here due to forcible vaccination, the New York Supreme Court said that forcible vaccination is an assault. That is, if it was against this man's will, is one which you must consider. This man, in the eyes of the law, has the right to be let alone. We have the right to freedom of our persons, and that freedom must not be invaded. It is one of the most important rights we have. Law is built on precedents. I offer this precedence, New York Supreme Court Justice 1910. Let's look at some death rates before and after the introduction of vaccination programs. Kind of contextualize what we're going through today. In Leicester, England, from 1828 through the late 1880s, there was a smallpox situation. And during the years that vaccination was actively pushed by laws, smallpox returned again and again, especially following vaccination efforts culminating in the great epidemic of 1872. Remember, 1870s, 1880s, 1890s, the Zionists are putting together their agenda. Vaccination's part of it. This great epidemic of 1872 came after the most intensive 4-year effort to completely vaccinate the population under a law that made refusal to submit to vaccination a penal offense. Does that sound familiar to you? As soon as the chief medical officer of England announced that they had reached 97% vaccination, think of vacant Joe Biden saying, we're up to this percent, we're up to that percent. As soon as England reached 97.5% vaccination status for smallpox, the epidemic exploded. The worst epidemic came when they had reached the utmost in protection. Why do you think they're trying to get you to 100% vaccination so the death can begin? The public, as a result, lost all trust in vaccination. And from 1905 to 1938, less than 6% of the population got the smallpox vaccine. And there wasn't one single reported death from smallpox in all that time. If you get the vaccine, you're going to die. If you don't get the vaccine, you're going to live a long, healthy life. This proves that not only is vaccination not a preventative, it's a causative. Smallpox and vaccination in Japan. Vaccination was introduced to Japan in 1849. The first vax law was 1874, followed by subsequent ones in 1876, 1885, and 1909, each one stronger than the last. Sound familiar? There were some 200 million vaccinations in Japan between 1885 and 1928, right when the Zadokim were getting their show together. Peak rates of vaccination were all followed by peak rates of infection for the specific vaccinated ailment. When vaccination efforts were ended, the rates of infection plummeted. Vaccines and tuberculosis in school-aged children. Countries without compulsory vaccination have the lowest death rates from tuberculosis. In Japan, with the most intense compulsory vaccines, had by far the largest amounts of death. Vaccines and other diseases. Charts of vaccine data in 7 European countries shows that the smallpox vaccine always greatly increased the number of deaths. Always. The evidence submitted should satisfy anyone that the use of vaccines to heal the sick and prevent infection is one of the greatest debacles in the history of mankind. And you know where it came from. 2 trees. Thank you for the $10 tip. It's got a funny little meme from Robert Stanley. Thank you, Robert. Rabbits Warren says, Mailman Jeff, those checks you deliver just keep getting bigger. Love getting unindoctrination rich. Thank you. What's happened? What has happened? Zadikim money sought, found, and bought the grandstanding, egotistical, fame-hungry Louis Pasteur. I'd so loved it. Substitute some names, but I won't. Zadikim money funded and financed Louis Pasteur. The Zadikim press promoted Louis Pasteur. The Zadikim officials protected Louis Pasteur. The Zadikim press made Louis Pasteur famous and made themselves wealthy beyond avarice. Zadikim vaccination is a fantastically profitable business. Zadikim vaccination, even though itself is a fantastically profitable business, it's also created the 2 other largest profit centers in medicine. Zadikim vaccination has almost single-handedly created heart disease and cancer. Oh, reminds me of something. Remember how I told you about scripted prophecy? Remember how I told you that scripted prophecy is nothing but them telling you what they're going to do and then making you who are stupid believe they're spiritual because they told you what they're going to do and then they actually were able to do it? Luke 21:26 says, men's hearts will fail them for fear. Men's hearts are fainting for fear and for expectation of what's coming on the world. Brought to you by the rabbis, rabies, and the family of vaccines that come from the Zadikim. Furthermore, Zadikim communist revolution long ago decided to leverage vaccination as a weapon in their conquest of the world. And never forget, vaccination is based upon a Talmudic fairy tale sold to Louis Pasteur. Remember the genesis of germ theory. Never forget it. Germ theory comes to us from an ancient Eastern religion, namely Zadikim, Kabbalistic, Chabadist, Talmud, that believes in specific demons. And This gives us specific diseases. This faith is Talmudic Zadokine Judaism. Germ theory is a Zadokine lie sold to a huckster and made ubiquitous by Zadokine propaganda to produce obscene profits and facilitate world domination. The theory that immunity can be gained by an attack, either natural or produced artificially, must be relegated to the realm of fiction from where it really came in the first place. Professor Adolf Vogt, professor of hygiene in Bern, Switzerland. The theory that immunity can be gained from an attack by the thing you're trying to get immune from, it makes no sense. It came from the Talmud. It's a fairy tale. And it has to go back to the realm of fairy tales and fiction from whence it came. Now, I'm not a professor of hygiene in Bern, Switzerland, but even I can figure it out. Vaccines and the rollout of revolution and world war. We're going to wrap it up with this, and it's you just watch. It can be shown that vaccination accompanied the rollout of Zionist communism and world domination. It was all part and parcel of the plan. In all countries, the military forces are the most thoroughly vaccinated. This was certainly true as the soldiers headed off to World War I just before the Soviet Revolution in Russia. And the Soviet Revolution in Russia and World War I had to be seen as a singular event. In January 1899, Lippincott, the chief surgeon of the United States Army, stated, "The entire force has been vaccinated at least 4 times since the appearance of smallpox." That was in January. In March, he wrote, "All danger is past." And from 1889 to 1902, the smallpox fatality percentage was, in the years after he said all dangers past, 29%, 46%, 46%, 19% respectively. Well, Jeff, maybe it worked. Well, the fatality rate for the non-vaxxed United States general public never topped 3%. 1, 2, 3. The vaccinated soldiers. What's the average there? The average death rate for the vaccinated soldiers, 29 plus 46 plus 46 plus 19 divided by 1, 2, 3, 4 divided by 4 equals. That's a 35% fatality rate among people that are vaccinated. And the non-vaccinated never topped 3%. Let me give you a little perspective there. That's a 1,200% increase. And if you're sitting here thinking that you need to get the vaccine for this latest Zio-communist lie, you're going to move yourself from, this one's only 1%. Less than 1% of people are dying from this. You want to be part of the 35, 36% that die from the vaccine? If you know these numbers and you still get it, it might be purifying the gene pool. It just might be. A comparison between the completely vaccinated and revaccinated British Army and Navy and the unvaccinated general public, again, of Leicester, England, showed that many unvaxxed civilians died of smallpox, or excuse me, mainly unvaccinated civilians died of smallpox at a rate of 14.4% between 1873 and 1894. The fully vaccinated military and revaccinated military died at a rate of 37%. And when they stopped infecting people after 1931, there was only 2 deaths among unvaccinated civilians of smallpox. Do you see that? Even when these soldiers are running around (14.4%) secondhand vaccination. And finally, after all of these guys were gone, only 2 deaths among unvaccinated civilians in 26 years. The Philippine Islands, 1921, saw the highest mortality rates in the most heavily vaccinated city, Manila. 65.3% of people who got the smallpox vaccine in Manila, Philippines in 1921 died. The lowest vaxxed city, Mindanao, 11.4% of the people died. The Philippine Islands suffered 60,000 deaths in 1918 and 19, despite, really because, they were the most thoroughly vaccinated civilian population in the entire world. How do you feel about the vaccines now, ladies and gentlemen? World War I ended with the great 1918 flu epidemic, which killed over 8 million people, very conservatively. This was a weaponized Zio vaccine and was part of their revolutionary strategy. This Gallipoli expedition of 1915 showed these death numbers: 25,270 killed in battle, 75,191 wounded in battle, missing 12,451. And of this fully vaccinated fighting force, 96,684 of them died from sickness. Folks, when your army, only 25,000 people are dying from bullets and 96,000 people are dying from shots, vaccines, 25,000 die because they're shot, 96,000 die because they got a shot. This shows you that not only do the vaccinated die from what they're vaccinated of, they die from other conditions at greatly accelerated rates, chiefly heart disease and cancer. The Zydekim love it when a plan comes together, ladies and gentlemen. And it's coming together like now. It's coming together now like never before. Vaccination creates disease in healthy people. Don't get the vaccine. Don't get any vaccines. It alters our body and causes us to get sick when we're healthy. Vaccines offer little to no, excuse the K, demonstrated benefit and bring horrible side effects like heart disease, encephalitis, and cancer. Have you heard that before? And it's not a surprise because now you know. This is what vaccines have been designed to do from the beginning. Vaccines are a Zionist communist weapon of war and revolution. Cancer deaths in England exploded from a pre-vaccination number of 23,000 in 1900 to over 69,000 in 1939 after mass vaccination. Bishop warned that the most serious, even fatal disorders may be provoked by the injection of living organisms into the blood. This cannot be done without enormous danger. The Zionist and Zadokine takeovers began in the 1900s, a little before. These takeover stratagem, as listed in the protocols of the Learned Elders of Zion and as demonstrated by the actions of the Learned Elders of Zion, communist revolution, domination of media, domination of finance, domination of medicine, domination of law, domination of politics, and vaccination. And here we are. Here we are. And there you have it. And there you have it. The wars are a cover-up to account for deaths caused by the vax. We see what they're doing. Very good insight there. Very good insight. Wow. Rabbits Warren says we have better odds with bullets than syringes. We do. We do. Now, how do you feel about the vaccine now that you've seen what the vax can do? So mind-blowing. As I watch many who said no to the vaccine get social pressure and get it. Jessica May. Well, again, is it a purification of the gene pool? You're welcome. Many thanks come in. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. There you go, folks. There you go. Thank you to Mike D for subscribing to the channel. I appreciate it. I truly do. I had a couple things here that I wanted to show you about the vaccine. Can't find them right this quick second. Let me go ahead and open the phone lines. Some of you might have something to say about this. You can't cuss. Make sure your language is pristine because we're on the radio. You must be interesting and you must be polite. The phone numbers are coming up on the bottom of the screen right now. It's really only one phone number. If you hear welcome the Christian Whistleblower, press 0. If you hear music, you're on hold. I'll get to you. 913-279-0831. 913-279-0831. I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian Whistleblower. And Solex, baby. Energy healing for you today in the palm of your hand. Here's my Solex device. I scan myself every day. I get the help I need. Check it out. Go to jeffreydaugherty.com. Come down underneath the videos. Hit the Solex button. A fantastic website. Incredible. You'll love it. You'll also love the Delta 8 from 3 Chai. It's hemp perfected. You can be the happiest and healthiest version of yourself. You may live in a state where you can't get cannabis. Well, you can get almost in every state. There's 8 you can't. 3 Chai Delta 8. I've used it. I've tested it. Amazing for pain. Amazing for sleep. If you have needs that cannabis can help with, but you can't get cannabis, get Delta 8 and get it from me. This is the best. Chai Delta 8. Go to jeffreydaugherty.com. Go under the videos, click on the Delta 8 button. You'll be so glad you did. It's a fantastic product. All right. So the phone lines are open. I guess I better put them back up there. Can I stack 3? Nope, just 2. The phone lines are open, 913-279-0831. 913-279-0831. We'll put the Solex back up there just for a minute. Well, I can't do that. I'll have to do that. And then I'll do that. And then I'll do that. There we go. And then I'll do that. Wow. That's a lot of that. Well, we're all the way up to 15 viewers on Twitch. Boom! We are rocking and rolling, ladies and gentlemen. 913-279-0831. Tomorrow night, we get into Bible prophecy is deep state prophecy. And this just in from Tracy Dyer. Wow. Can I play this? Can I play this? Let me play this. Let me play this. See if I can do it. Stretching, pushing my skills. Hold on a second. Okay, here we go. Don't tell me it won't play. So they're going through these boxes of masks. Oh, and look what they find. There's location trackers in the masks. There's a chip in there. In the mask. Oh, isn't it nice? They're giving us masks. Oh, look at what they find. How about that, ladies and gentlemen? There's a little chip in the mask. Isn't that something? They love you so much. They're just trying to protect you. That's why they want to give you a mask. Really? Really? It's late night in the Heartland. You're live with Jeffrey Daugherty.
Hey, Jeffrey, Iris in Colorado.
Hello, Iris. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. I was just calling about a couple things. You know, that I was a nurse, and I trained with diploma nurses, which were the nurses that actually were in the battlefield, you know, so they were very strict. So we had to wear white. We had to have our hair up. I remember one of the nurses coming behind me, my hair was on my collar, and she slapped my ponytail, and she said, "Get that hair off your collar." So that's clean, you know. You had to be clean. No cologne, nothing like that. Another thing I wanted to mention about this vaccine, how they're saying it's causing heart problems.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Paul of the Suns basketball team, he took the jab, and he ended up with, I think, myocarditis. So,
wow.
And he was young, healthy, everything. And so he had to be, he missed like a week of the playoffs or something like that. And then one more thing. My son got the hepatitis B shot when he was in 8th grade. He ended up with 5 different diseases. I can't remember all of them, but he ended up with strep throat. He had this thing called genetic Crosby syndrome, which was a rash, which was pea-sized from his from above his knees and above his elbows, and his whole trunk covered. And this lasted and lasted and lasted. And he also had rheumatic fever. I can't remember everything he had, but I took the flu shot in 2020 when they made nurses take them. I ended up in the hospital for 5 days, and my doctor said, don't ever take another shot again. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to dance around this one, because according to Biden, we're not going to have any exemptions.
Wow. Sorry to hear that, but glad to hear it. It's the evidence is everywhere, ladies and gentlemen. The evidence is everywhere. What's wrong with you? You know the masks have the graphene in them. You know the test has the graphene in them. Now you know the masks even have chips so they can track you. Are you really going to take these things? Oh, it's just a mask, Jeff. No, it's not. It's a tracking device. It gets you sick. It gets you sick. What is wrong with you? What is wrong with you? But you know what? All the news is not bad. All the news is not sad. This from our friend Two Trees, and I made sure I didn't show any email addresses. People storm the London press over fake news. People storm the London press over fake news. Resistance is not futile. A group of protesters has stormed the entrance of the headquarters of ITV, or Independent Television News, and Channel 4 in London, protesting the misinformation and fake news about COVID that the media has been putting out concerning vaccines and the so-called pandemic. Europe is up in arms, more so than the U.S., because they're the head of state, can shut down the entire country. In the USA, President Biden has no such power. That belongs to the state governor. This writer is warning all journalists, if you don't start rebelling against your own editorial management, which has been bought off, the mob will start dragging journalists out in the streets and hanging you. This is how all revolutions unfold, and you better wake up to what history tells you. When you're in the pocket of the government, you become the enemy of the people. It's time to boycott your editors and save humanity. Wow. That from Two Trees. Pretty interesting, isn't it? Pretty interesting, isn't it? We've got some good times that are coming, ladies and gentlemen. It might be some scary times, but it's going to be some good times. I guarantee you, it's going to be some good times. The world's going to be better than it's ever been, sooner than you can even imagine. And you heard it here first. You heard it here last. And you'll continue to hear it here, ladies and gentlemen. Because that's what we do. And we will continue to make our appointed rounds and deliver you the mail. Whether you want it or not, we're going to deliver you this mail. And for those of you that are still so sure that Trump is coming back, and those of you that are still so sure that Trump is fighting the good fight, and you're going to vote Republican, and you know that Jessera and Nicera, and you know that all this good stuff is coming. Well, Representative Anthony Sabatini lets us know, and this is a little bit dated, it was back on July 16th. He lets us know that the Republican Party raised $300 million claiming to fight for election integrity. I got many emails from Trump himself raising money to fight for election integrity. They raised over $300 million to fight for election integrity. Guess how much of it they spent on the Maricopa audit? Zero. 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 How about that? How about that, ladies and gentlemen? That's a fine how do you do, isn't it? But they're working to save us. No, they're not. No, they're not. And it's time that you realize and woke up that they're not trying to save us. They're not trying to help us. Not for a second. Not for a second. And this is 2 minutes and 16 seconds. I'm going to play this. And I'm going to shut off the phones so that no one can call and interrupt this. We'll open the phones back up after this. But I want to play this. 2 minutes and 16 seconds. And it has to do with the Nuremberg Code, which you should familiarize yourself with. And let's see if I can make this happen. I think I can. Here we go. Let's do it.
The experiment should be designed and based on the results of animal experimentation. This experimental jab skipped animal testing. Number 4, the experiment should be so conducted as to avoid all unnecessary physical and mental suffering and injury. According to official reports, there are already thousands of deaths and over 250,000 injuries from this experiment. Number 5, no experiment should be conducted where there is an a priori reason to believe that death or disabling injury will occur. Past trials have shown a strong possibility that these new spike proteins will cause a body to attack itself. This is known as antibody-dependent enhancement, or ADE. And recent doctors have blown the whistle that this could end up killing everybody who's been vaccinated in the next 2 years. Number 6, the risk should never exceed the benefit. COVID-19 has a 98 to 99% survival rate, less deadly than the seasonal flu. The experimental jab is already the most dangerous vaccine in VAERS' 30-year history. Number 7, proper preparations should be made and adequate facilities provided to protect the experimental subject against even remote possibilities of injury, disability, or death. There were no preparations made. There are no facilities. The subject shows up for their shot and goes home. Number 8, the experiment should be conducted only by scientifically qualified persons. This experiment has been exclusively run by politicians, the media, celebrities, and big pharma bureaucrats. Number 9, the subject should be at liberty to bring the experiment to an end. Thousands of medical experts have attempted to end this madness, and their voices continue to be silenced. Number 10, the experiment must be brought to an end if resulting in injury or death. And yet, the experiment pushes on. Once again, those who violate these international laws are subject to the death penalty. Legal proceedings.
Wow, ladies and gentlemen. That's a mouthful. That's a mouthful. And you can call in again if you want. The lines are open, 913-279-0831. I watched a video today that Cynthia showed me. The insert, it does have an insert in the vaccine, but it's blank. It's late night in the Heartland. You're live with Jeffrey Daugherty. Hello. You're live with Jeffrey Daugherty.
Hey, Jeffrey, it's Iris. I made a mistake. I told you I got the flu vaccine in 2020. It was actually 2000 when they made nurses start taking these jabs. So
Okay.
That's how long they've been doing it, and that's how long nurses have also been getting these. So
Crazy.
there you have it. Killing off the nurses.
You know, they're killing off a lot of us, and it makes no sense unless they're trying to get back at Florence Nightingale still for being a hero. So many of the nurses are. And so many of them are complicit too, but we're seeing many, many, many of them come out and say, this is wrong. We shouldn't be doing it. We're seeing many of them quit. We're seeing many of them walk away. And I salute those people for doing that. I salute those people for doing that. Here's another little interesting factoid. Let me bring this one up and see if we can't share it. Alrighty then. In 2019, the great chosen one, the one who's coming back, the one who loves us all so much, President Trump signed a modernizing influenza vaccines executive order. That's right. President Trump signed a modernizing influenza vaccines executive order in September 2019, talking about a universal vaccine for the flu and bringing together CDC, the FDA, the Department of Defense, the Department of Justice, and the National Institutes for Health. The great Trump did that. And this is the actual executive order, which I've read, and I'm sure you haven't. So feel free to just hush until you read it. The great Trump been lying to us for years. And some of you still don't see it. Still won't admit it. I'm moving on to the next cage. I throw in the key. If you want to be free, you can get some help from me, but if you don't, I'm going to go on by to the next cage because I don't have time for it. This is something that was sent to me from Barbara. It's interesting. I'm not sure what it means, but you know, it's COVID, COVID, and we talk about things being in an inversion in the script. Well, in Hebrew, COVID backwards is, of course, divok, and it's word number 91 in Hebrew, which is kind of interesting, 911. Just throwing that out there. And what does it mean? It means the possession of a malevolent soul. A possession of a malevolent soul. Divok is COVID spelled backwards. In Hebrew, it means possession of a malevolent soul. We often talk about how the script is an inversion. There's an inversion for you. Divok means you've got a malevolent soul. Wow. How about that one, ladies and gentlemen? That's a fine how do you do. And because they love us so much, the Department of Homeland Security is considering hiring private firms to analyze public social media posts for extremism red flags, sparking debate on such threat monitoring without violating the civil liberties of humans. Citizens. The Department of Homeland Security and other law enforcement and intelligence agencies were blamed by the media for ignoring signs of the January 6th event that were blatantly displayed in social media platforms. I didn't see any of that. According to a report in the Wall Street Journal, the Department of Homeland Security is considering hiring private firms to analyze public social media posts. Some claim that the effort, which is still under discussion and has not been funded, would involve sifting through public social media posts for narratives, providing leads in potential attacks, whether by domestic or foreign actors. We're talking about how we can dramatically expand our focus, said John Cohen, Imagine that. John Cohen. Zadakim John Cohen, the Department of Homeland Security official spearheading the project. If we want to take our country back, every Zadakim individual in power must surrender that power. That's just the way it is. That's just the way it is. The project has sparked debate within the agency. There's some concern over the protection of civil liberties. Some think it's a governmental overreach. The Electronic Frontier Foundation, the EFF, is opposed to the idea of the government consuming more public social media because it could store the information up for a long time and use it to violate people's freedoms. No, they wouldn't do that. They wouldn't do that. They love us so, so much. But the White House insists they are looking into ways of analyzing social media. One of the companies involved is called Logically. They use AI and human analysts to track online content. Isn't that something, ladies and gentlemen? Cohen says that the Homeland Security would not request information from private firms. Sure. Very, very interesting. But they love us so much. I'm sure there's nothing to worry about. Nothing at all. They treat us all bad. They do. Fish is in the house. Nice to see you, Fish. We appreciate seeing you. Wow, ladies and gentlemen. Just amazing stuff. Just amazing stuff. Thursday night, we're going to hear from Paymon from livefreenow.org, the Freedom Law School. And then we're going to hear from our friend Two Trees. And we're going to talk about whether or not we live on a spinning ball. That's going to be interesting stuff. Barbara also sent me this, which is, at the very least, interesting. I don't know that it's 100% legit. I don't know that I'm 100% on board, but it's very interesting. She sent me a collection of photographs that she says are some faux banner snaps. Many repeat players. Sounds interesting, doesn't it? We will take a look at that right after this. We're going to take a little break. We will come back and we will look at that, and we'll probably end up our night with that. We'll also open up the phone lines. This is going to be some good stuff. These are some good pictures, folks. And I know that you'll want to see them. So give this great presentation your attention, because we're here to help you unindoctrinate yourself. And this, it'll help you get the job done.
All FLFE subscriptions include the brain optimization program. This is brain optimization for our modern world, which today is including more and more EMF or electromagnetic fields. And we look at those as either positive electromagnetic fields, which the earth and our bodies produce those, or negative or consciousness lowering electromagnetic fields. And that's really what we're concerned with. So this brain optimization program is designed, along with the rest of FLFE, to provide more life force energy, or as Chinese medicine calls it, qi, to the body. And the body is optimized through the flow of qi and life force energy throughout the body. And the brain optimization program provides more of this energy to the brain, particularly where it's most needed.
the FLFE environment is supported through something we call programs. The programs are positive declarative statements that are measured using consciousness kinesiology as taught or explored by Dr. David Hawkins. And those programs are very high level of consciousness thought forms. If you're familiar with the Hawkins map, they're at 999 out of 1,000 or higher. So there's a lot of work that goes into those. It's a very labor-intensive process. It's a labor of love, but it does take some time and effort. So they're very specifically crafted. And in the brain optimization program, they are oriented to optimize the brain. So during the day, the FLFE programs support increased functioning in the brain. Increased functioning are things like increased concentration and stamina, so we can study longer and retain more information, or be more present for those meetings or conversations. At night, the FLFE environment supports enhanced rebuilding of the physical aspects of the brain, which is very much in alignment with the innate intelligence of the body. We just use the environment to enhance that so that our quality of life is increased.
That's Focus Life Force Energy. You know where to find them. JEFFERYDAUGHERTY.com. Come down underneath the videos and click on the Focus Life Force Energy button. Our longest standing sponsor. Love those guys. They're the best. So let me give you these faux banner, false flag photographs sent by Barbara. And let's see what she has. We'll go through them all. Some may be great, some may not be so great, but we'll take a look at all of them. Let's share. Let's share. How can I'll make this the full screen. You don't need to see me, right? So this one talks about the Orlando Pulse nightclub shooting event. Occurred on June 12, 2016. I was living in Orlando then. And they say it was a hoax performed by actors on the employee of the U.S. government to further the agenda of gun control and the bogus war on terrorism. And they question whether any of these people in this photo actually met their demise. I lived in Orlando. It was super, super fishy. All right, bad actors at the faked Orlando Pulse nightclub shooting. This guy was supposedly at the Pulse nightclub shooting. It was proven by Anonymous that he was indeed an actor. So at least one actor who went by the name of Christopher Hansen is actually an actor named Bjorn Jiskut. A actor, ladies and gentlemen, involved in the Pulse event. Busted. This is interesting. I don't know if I buy this completely, but it's at least the sign of somebody that's watching. It's at least the sign of somebody that's thinking. They were carrying the wounded towards the shooting. How else are you going to get the wounded there if they didn't get wounded there? But this is Stephen Paddock of Vegas fame on the left. This is Gene Rosen from Sandy Hook. Is it the same guy? I don't know. But at least somebody's paying attention. And I like it when people pay attention. Barbara says that they were mannequins. They were mannequins at Pulse. Is that the same guy? The nose, the cheekbones, the forehead, in this case, the 5 head, maybe a 6 head. Ears, very similar. Hard to tell with the mouth. Of course, the facial hair, very similar. Worth a thought. And of course, this girl crying at Aurora, crying at Sandy Hook, crying at the Boston bombing. Maybe she's just really unlucky. Maybe she's just really unlucky. I don't know. Poor girl. Always in the wrong place at the wrong time. What are the odds? This looks like the same girl. If that ain't the same girl, that's a doppelganger. Or a triple ganger, maybe. Maybe a triple ganger. Sandy Hook actors grieve parents at Sandy Hook and at home in Florida using their real name of Sexton. They work for Homeland Security as crisis actors. That's the same people, folks. That's the same people. Tell me again that's not the same people. Come on, man. Those are the same people, no doubt. No doubt. And here is David Hogg, appropriately named anyway. Here's how we act before we go out and cry for the cameras. Here's how we act when the cameras are off. Oh, but we're really, really sad and somber when the cameras are on. And Barbara says, if you see that girl, run. That's sound advice. That is sound advice. That's sound advice. This is how we act before we go out and act like all of our friends just got killed. Because we're back in the green room having a good time. Crisis actors and production team take a group selfie just before they have to go out and tell their heart-wrenching stories on TV. Yeah, they're really upset. Can't you tell? Now, this is really interesting here. This is really interesting here. Can I make this any bigger? I don't think I can. The Boston bombing, right? Sandy Hook down here. Those dudes look like they might be the same dudes. Those dudes look like they might be the same dudes. Wow. Dude. 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 Wow. Wow. Somebody's saying that David Hogg looks like Lanza. I don't know if Lanza was a real person. And here is Emily Suker, school shooting survivor. There she is, Emily. Or is that Emily? I guess that's Emily. Oh, but here's Emily's IMDb page. Emily's an actress. I'm sure it's just a coincidence. Emily's an actress. Emily, put the glasses on. It'll make you look smarter. Or I don't know if that's the one. It doesn't really matter. Actress. IMDb page. Imagine that. Sorry. And here's David Hogg. Smiling. He's really broken up on the inside, though. David Hogg holds anti-gun interview 4 hours before the shooting. Well, that's interesting. He held an anti-gun interview 4 hours before the shooting. Wow. That David's pretty smart. The face you make when 17 of your classmates have been gunned down. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, they all got shot. It was hilarious. Yeah, they're dead. Oh, yeah. They're dead. Oh, boy. This is the same guy interviewed last year at the in LA after a shooting. Just happened to be in August that he just happened to be there at the LA shooting. And son of a gun. August 17th in Cali, February 18th in Florida. Same dude. Wow. It's amazing, ladies and gentlemen. It's amazing, ladies and gentlemen. Oops. David Hogg recorded his gun control interview 5 hours before the school shooting. Oops. Hate it when that happens. David Hogg did not attend Parkland High School. I went to school with him at Redondo Shores High School in California, and he graduated in 2015. Here he is in our yearbook from 2015. Says he always wanted to work for CNN and be an actor. Well, isn't that special? Hi, David. In the California high school yearbook. Oops. I hate it when that happens. I don't know what that one's supposed to be. And we're back to the bad actors at the Pulse event. I think that is a pretty impressive night of broadcast excellence. I would say that's an impressive night of broadcast excellence. And I would say we got more where that's coming from. We got more where that's coming from tomorrow night. We'll be here starting at 10 p.m. I'm not sure if I'll be here, but we'll be here. I'm pretty sure I'll be here. I may be hitting the road later on in the week, but tomorrow night, Bible prophecy is deep state prophecy. You heard stuff here tonight you're never going to hear anywhere else. Get used to it and keep on coming back because it's what we do here. It's what we do here. This has been Late Night in the Heartland. I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian whistleblower, the mailman. Thank you for making my day. You're the last generation of real humans. Unindoctrinate yourself.
Wow.